Up here and speak at some point. It's a goal for you. The funny thing is you're on these stages and you can't see much at all because the lights are so bright and you also feel so far away. And this session's great because it's going to be more relaxed, a bit more intimate as you can be with 800 chairs in a room, but a little bit more intimate, more relaxed, and I really want to get practical in this session about how you build the sort of momentum we were talking about this morning. Now it's interesting, Chung was talking about the momentum in the Indonesian market and this question of how do you know where you've got momentum, and that's where I want to start our time this afternoon looking at. Now, we started our time this morning, I asked you to go back to high school science class, and I asked how many of you were paying attention. I'm wondering how many of you were actually paying attention this morning in my session, so I want to test you for a moment here, because you'll remember this morning I gave you a formula for momentum. That formula was these three elements on the screen behind me. So the momentum we said equals A, which stood for activity. The F stood for focus, and the C stood for consistency. Good job. Well done, class. You weren't paying attention. That's encouraging. And see, here's the thing. While I gave you a formula for momentum, and even though in the world of science we put momentum down to a formula that's driven by physics, the reality is, for most of you in business, momentum is really difficult to pin down. In fact, if I were to ask you this afternoon, how would you know if you had momentum? Many of you would probably struggle to give me a quantifiable measure of that. And yet here's the thing, we all know what momentum feels like. We know the sensation of momentum. And what I find is when I'm working with clients, regardless of the industry that I'm working in or the sort of client that I'm working with, when I ask them the question, how would you know if you had momentum, they'll describe the sensation using words like this. They'll say, well, we'll know if we've got momentum because it feels like we're just going with the flow. It feels like we're on a roll, we're firing at all cylinders, we're in a sweet spot. This idea that we've got massive traction, we're in the zone. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. But if I were to ask how many of you right now feel like that describes your business, there'd be a number of you go, yeah, that's me. We've got momentum right now. When we put on meetings every week or every month, and every time we run out of chairs. People are coming from coming from nowhere. The business is growing. There's an effortlessness, a buoyancy, which is awesome. But if that's you right now, if you've got momentum, that tailwind propelling you along, be careful. Be careful because in a flash, you can lose it. See, momentum's a lot like inspiration. Often when we've got it, we're like, I know how it feels, I don't know where it came from, but I hope it lasts. And momentum is the same. And here's the thing, of course, every single one here in this room this afternoon, you know what it feels like when momentum evaporates. When suddenly you go from being in a groove to being in a rut. You feel like you're in a bit of a funk. In fact, the words that I hear my clients use when they describe that sensation of losing momentum are phrases or words like this. It just feels like we've lost our mojo. We're in a rut, we've come off the boil, we're up against it, it's become a daily grind, a hard slog. And again, I won't ask how many of you would be in that second group. If I were to ask you to describe your business, you may say, well, you know what, those words beneath the line, that's actually how sort of this felt for us in the last year or two. Now here's the focus this afternoon, in the minutes we've got together. I want to show you how, if you are beneath the line, how to get back above the line. How to get momentum back, how to really rev things back up again if you feel like you've lost that edge. That's what we're talking about this morning with the leaders in this very room. But if you're just starting out in this business, you're just kicking things off, I also want to show you how to get above the line to start with. If you're just kicking things off, how do you build momentum, that growth momentum in your business? So would that be helpful this afternoon to cover those two things? Because let's dive straight in. I want to give you 5 keys if you're going to build or rebuild momentum in your business. And the first key to doing this is this here. You need to schedule for success. And we talked this morning about the importance of intentionality. And I said you've got to be deliberate, purposeful, intentional about the activities you engage with, not just operating on autopilot. And I also challenged you with that question of, what have you stopped doing? What are the things that have fallen by the wayside in recent years? But I want to talk about a very different facet of intentionality in the next few minutes. And that is intentionality around how you use every moment of every single day. Intentionality about the way you use your schedule. Because what I find is when I'm working with people who are high capacity, high output people, people who live momentum on a daily basis, the one thing they all have in common is they are ruthlessly intentional about how they use their time. In fact, I want to share with you a tool this afternoon that I've found some of the most productive, high output people I know use on a daily basis. And it's a tool that I call the Productivity Blueprint. And at the core of the Productivity Blueprint, and by the way, this is going to transform how effective you are. Some of you this afternoon, this is going to change your business and the way you use your days. It's going to change your life quite possibly. Because I'm going to show you how to leverage your efforts, how to get better results without necessarily working harder. And at the core of the Productivity Blueprint is the good old-fashioned to-do list. Now, how many of you use a to-do list at least every day, if not every week? Who uses a to-do list here? Many of you do. Great, that's a good start, because a to-do list is like base level intentionality. It's going into your day or into your week saying, this is what I want to achieve. That's great, it's a good start. But here's the thing, it's not enough. It's not enough. So if you're going to build momentum on a daily basis, and as we said this morning, momentum is built or lost in the day-to-day, the to-do list is only just the start. See, for you to build momentum and to be intentional about the use of your time, it's not about the substance of your to-do list, i.e., it's not about the fact that you've got one or what you've got on that list. It's the sequence with which you move through your to-do list. That's the key. And I want to challenge the way you engage with your to-do list every single day and suggest from this point forward, you need to look at your to-do list as being made up of 3 types of activities. Okay, these are the 3 types of activities up on the screen. The first type of activity, the simple tasks. The simple tasks are the easy things, the fun things, they fit with your temperament. In fact, the more of them you do, the more energized and excited you become. You can get it done quickly and easily. They're the simple tasks. The second sort of activity on your to-do list are the complex tasks. Now, these are the things that you don't enjoy doing. They're not a natural fit for your skill set. I mean, they're actually often things that you'll procrastinate, you'll put off. For many of you in this business, I know that the complex tasks are things like making phone calls to prospects. How many of you still get that butterfly in the stomach when you've got to pick up the phone and ring someone to set an appointment or talk about your business? Heads up, be honest, some of you find that a bit of a challenge. Most of us do. That's the fear of rejection. And hey, a bit of an encouraging point, it doesn't go away the more successful you get. It's always there. You just learn to manage it a whole lot better. But they're the complex tasks. It's often the things that require you to step outside your comfort zone. Now, the third type of activity are the routine tasks. These are the day-to-day things, responding to emails, checking in with your team, paperwork, all the rest, the routine things. Now, here's how I would suggest you use every block of time that you dedicate to building your USANA business. Because I know that most of you, outside of this business, you've got a job or you're studying, and you can only have chunks of time that you dedicate to building your business. Here's how I would highly recommend using every block of time that you've dedicated to this business if you're going to get the most from that time. The first thing you need to do is dedicate the first 20% of that block of time to the simple tasks. These are the things that are easy. They're fun. Because the beauty of the simple task is they get you warmed up. They get you moving. They're the best way to break the shackles of inertia and overcome procrastination. In fact, if you ever feel like you've got into a rut, how many of you ever feel that you get into a rut with this business, you don't know where to go next, you just couldn't be bothered doing anything, and it's easy to procrastinate? The best thing to do is start with a few simple tasks. Because if you go back to the world of science again, Newton's first law of motion tells us the hardest thing to do is get off go, to start. And so what you need to do is do a few simple things to get you moving, to get you warmed up, to get you into a groove. Then, after you've spent 20% of that time doing the simple tasks, switch your focus to doing the complex tasks. While you're still fresh, you're still full of energy, then turn your attention to those things you've been putting off. See, if you've made a couple of phone calls to your downline team, which is often a simple task for most of us, you're already in motion, you've got momentum. Then when you have to pick up the phone and ring a prospect, it's not so hard, is it? Because you're already moving. So start with the simple things, then do the complex tasks, then for the last 40% of that block of time, dedicate your time to doing the routine things, the day-to-day stuff. Now here's the reason I suggest having a framework or a plan like this. Because if you don't have intentionality about how you use every moment of every day, this is what most of you look like when it comes to using your time. You spend the first 50% of any block of time doing the routine stuff. You open your laptop, you turn on your computer, and you just start responding to emails, doing the day-to-day stuff. And then you think, I probably should do a few other things, so you do a few of the simple tasks because they're easy and they're fun. It's the path of least resistance. And then, 7 minutes before you've got to race out the door to get to a meeting, you think, oh gosh, I really should get to some of those phone calls to prospects. I really should do a few of those complex things I've been putting off. And then you think, oh no, I've only got 7 minutes, I can't do it now, I'll do it tomorrow. Don't you? And then tomorrow becomes next week, which becomes next month. Now, how many of you got things on your to-do list that have been there for months right now? Hands up if you've got things on your to-do list that have been there for months. Most of us do. And what are they? They're the complex tasks. And so the beauty of being intentional, having a sense of deliberateness about how you use your time means you get the things, the complex, important tasks that will build momentum. So that's the first key. You need to schedule for success. The second key if you're going to build momentum personally and in your team is you need to maintain a future focus. And we talked about this morning. And right from the beginning with David standing up in front of you all as we had the welcome to the day, and he talked about what's your why, what's your purpose, why are you in this business, what are you working for? Remember we said that for the All Blacks, the sports team, the rugby team, for the All Blacks, maintaining that future focus was absolutely critical. I want to go a little bit deeper into that whole thing because for you as a business owner and as a leader, and by the way, if you've got one person in your downline team, you're a leader. It's that simple. And as a leader, the most important thing for you to do is to make sure you maintain that future focus rather than getting focused on the day to day. And I want to look at some questions around how to do that. How do you keep the vision, keep the why out in front of you? And I want to give you these 4 questions and challenge you to spend some time in the next 2 days sitting down, get a cup of coffee, get a blank sheet of paper and spend some time lifting your eyes, getting focused on the vision again. What's your why? Okay, here are 4 questions I want to give you to reflect on for yourself, but also to take away and ask your team as well. The first question, if you're going to maintain a future focus, be vision fueled, is this question here. The question of what excites you most about the next 6 to 12 months? Quite honestly. And it may be in business, or maybe in your life, generally. What are the things coming up on the horizon that just when you think about them, you get excited? And it may be nothing to do with the business. It might be that your sister's getting married. Might be one of your kids is graduating high school. Whatever it is, what's come up that when you think about it, you go, gosh, I can't wait for that to get here. Because the beauty of that, even if it has nothing to do with the business, the beauty of thinking about those things is it automatically lifts your focus from the day-to-day and focuses you on the horizon. I was sharing with the leaders this morning the old proverb, and it's so true, that where there's no vision, the people perish. And we're talking about the fact that vision in that sense is so critical for maintaining that sense of vitality. In fact, I liken vision to being like the oil in your car. Some of you know why you've got oil in the engine of your car. It's to lubricate the bits and make it all work. And you can actually run an engine pretty well without oil for a little while, not too long, a little while, because if you operate an engine without oil, it'll seize up, it'll melt down, it'll blow up. Do you know we're a bit the same? You can be running hard, building your business, but without vision, without a clear sense of what you're excited about, what your why is. It's like running the engine without oil, and you'll seize up, you'll melt down, and you'll blow up. It'll damage you over time. As we said this morning, purposeless productivity is soul destroying. It's not about being productivity driven, but purpose driven. And so this first question gets your eyes up off the immediate and focuses on the future. The second question is this question here. When did you last feel motivated and why? And so I mean, not at this conference, because at the convention it's easy to be motivated because there's lights and there's music and there's all the stuff, it's great. But I want to challenge you, in the last 6 months, when was the last time you got just really motivated about your business? And don't just think about when it was, think about what were the things that caused you to be motivated. Did you read a book that inspired you? Did you have a conversation with someone who you were nervous to call and they signed up and that was just the most exciting thing ever? Because for each of you, it'll be different. The way you're wired, your temperament means different things will motivate you. Spend some time reflecting on what it is in the past that's motivated you, and then bear in mind that next time you get into a rut, that's the stuff you've got to do. Number 3, what results would represent a disappointing failure in the next 12 months? Now, this is an interesting question. Imagine in 12 months' time, you're back here at the AP convention again. What results, if you were back here this time next year, what results would make you feel like it had been a wasted year, like you'd missed the mark? For some of you, it's like, well, if you hadn't achieved that next recognition level, or if your business had gone backwards, or it might even be personal, like if you hadn't lost weight, or you weren't more fit or healthy, or whatever it is. What would represent a disappointing failure? Because the power of this question is, sometimes when I ask you, what do you want to achieve, it's a hard question to answer, isn't it? But when I ask you, what do you not want to achieve, that's actually easy to answer. Then you think, well, what would the opposite of that be? It gives you some powerful cues. And number 4, what would you set out to do this coming year if your success was guaranteed? What would you set out to do this year if your success was guaranteed? And some of you are like, well, hey, if that was the case, I'd shoot for 2-star diamond. That'd be my goal. And you might think, well, that's a bit unreasonable perhaps, maybe a bit unlikely, impractical. But here's the thing, you may shoot for that, and you may not get it, but you'll get a whole lot higher than if you set no goal at all. So I want to give you a few moments, just 30 seconds, just as it's working on your own with a sheet of paper or something to write with in front of you, with that 4th question. If I could guarantee that whatever you wrote down in the next 20, 30 seconds were going to come true in the next 12 months, what would you shoot for if your success was guaranteed? 30 seconds, write that down. Go for it. For some of you, what you write down in the next few seconds has the potential to change your business. Some of you look back, in fact, in a few years' time at this moment as being the defining moment that changed the trajectory of your business success. Take this seriously. What would you aim for in the next 12 months? If all bets were off, if I could guarantee that you would achieve it. Some of you are finding this hard to answer, and that's okay. Spend some time the next day. Work with this question. It may not be easy, but it's important. Okay, I want to give you 20 seconds. With the person next to you, share what you've got written down. If you feel comfortable doing so, share what you've got written down in response to that 4th question. There's nothing like a bit of accountability, okay? So 20 seconds with the person next to you. What have you got written down in response to that 4th question? 20 seconds, go for it.
What would you set out to become your successful?
Siyempre yung nating executive Ruby.
When did you last think
Every time.
5 seconds to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, I don't know if you sense it like I do, but I'm looking out at you. And I can see that for some of you, your whole posture has changed. See, there's something about doing this activity that shifts your mindset. How many of you are just a little bit more inspired and hopeful than you were when you walked in? Hands up if that's you. A number of you are. This is a powerful exercise. And as we said this morning, vision and inspiration are critical if you're going to build a business that experiences explosive growth. As I said, you can't give away what you haven't got. Okay, number 3, the 3rd key to building momentum or getting momentum back if you feel a bit stuck here this afternoon. The 3rd key is this. You need to keep your business simple. Keep your business simple.
Keep the business simple.
Now, in the world of physics, do you know the thing that stops momentum or slows momentum down? It's one thing, it's called friction. You may have seen old experiments where they have a pendulum flying through space, flying through the air, and over time it gets slower and the arc becomes shorter until eventually it stops. And what is it that causes that object to stop spinning? What is it that causes the momentum to be lost? It's friction. It's the movement of the air around that pendulum will slow it down. And see, it's exactly the same for us in business. Friction is the one thing that will slow you down. And particularly in this business, it's the friction of having a business becomes too cumbersome, too complex, too bureaucratic as time goes on. Now, I first learned about the whole importance of friction, the nature of friction in affecting momentum back when I was a kid. Now I grew up in a seaside town on the east coast of Australia. One of my favourite things to do after school in an afternoon was to wander around the wharves, the dock area where I grew up. And one of my favourite things at the wharves was the dry dock. Now the dry dock was a place where they used to drag boats out of the water and do maintenance on the hulls of those boats. What was always interesting about the dry dock is that these boats, when they were out of their moorings, looked like the picture of sleek beauty. Once they were dragged up into the dry dock, you'd realise that under the waterline they looked a little bit more like this. Encrusted with barnacles and crustaceans. And of course the thing is, for a boat, the longer a boat's in the water, this happens effortlessly with every boat in the water. The longer a boat's in the water, the more barnacles will form. And it's exactly the same in business. The longer you're in business, the more complex and bureaucratic your business will get, unless you're mindful not to let that become the case. And when I'm working with clients, I tend to go through 3 questions designed to help identify the sort of friction that will slow you down. These are the questions here. Questions like, what is it in your business that creates confusion? Bless you. Sound like a rewarding sneeze. What creates confusion? I mean, if you're talking to a new prospect, what are the things that when you start talking about the different terminology, the compensation plan and the product and the science, the things that you can see in their eyes, they don't quite get it. Because to you the language makes perfect sense, but to a new person it just seems confusing, overwhelming. What creates confusion? Number 2, what creates complexity? We'll come back to that in a moment. The third question is, what is it that creates frustration? What are the things that make it difficult for people to join your business and build the business? What are the points of friction and frustration? But of those 3 questions, the second one is the critical one if you're going to build and maintain momentum. And this was the discussion we had with the leaders in this room this morning. The question from the floor was, it feels like in our business we've had growth, but bureaucracy's crept in, and now it feels like we're just slowing down. We've become a business that's weighed down. And that second question is probably the most important one in your business. This is why I say keep your business simple. I remember sharing this when I was at the convention over in Salt Lake City last year in the breakout session there, and I said, if you speak to someone about your business, and you talk about the product and the compensation plan and the whole deal, and they leave that conversation as a new prospect, and they leave the conversation impressed by you, you've failed. What I mean by that is this: if they leave that conversation thinking, oh my goodness, that person, they were so knowledgeable about the science and the comp plan and the products, they knew so much, they knew the answer to every question and then some. If they leave that conversation impressed by you, you fail, because this is a business of duplication. You want them to leave that conversation thinking, is that all it takes to build this business? That is so simple. I could do that. You want them to think, that business is so simple, turnkey, I can make that part of my financial future. And this is the critical thing: as you go on, as you become more specialised, more expert, as you learn more, beware the temptation to make your business more complicated than it needs to be. Some of you actually know too much. The problem is you share all that knowledge every time you're talking about the business, and every year your knowledge grows, and that information is getting more and more bulky. And the problem is you speak to a brand new person, and they see that and they're intimidated by how clever you are, by how much you know, by how complex you've made the business. And it'll be a handbrake on your growth if you're not careful. Right, number 4, the 4th key is you need to develop an innovation mindset if you're going to maintain this edge. One of the things we've seen in the last few years is the fact that in business today, the rate of disruption, the rate of change is greater than we've ever seen before. I don't know how many of you have ever heard this quote, probably many of you, or most of you have the quote from Albert Einstein, that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get a different result. Who has heard that before? Hands up if you've heard that here. Most of you have. Now, can I suggest though, in light of all of the change that we're experiencing, in business right now, the level of disruption we're experiencing. If Einstein was making that observation today, he would actually define insanity in a
Walang
very opposite way.
ginagawa.
See, if Einstein were defining insanity today, he would actually quite likely say insanity today is actually doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get the same result. Because this is the key challenge. If you're using the same techniques, the same approaches, the same technology you were using 2 years ago, 3 years ago in order to build your business, expecting it to be as effective as it was 2 or 3 years ago, you're going to be sorely disappointed. The world's moved on. The world's changed. Our constant challenge is to keep pace with what is changing around us. To develop that innovation mindset, we're always looking for the next thing in order to stay at the cutting edge. Now, can I suggest the most powerful asset any business has, and I've been talking about this for the last 2 or 3 years, but it's as important now as it's ever been. The most important asset any business has for innovation is the person on a team, the person in a company who's got the freshest eyes. I mean, we saw a show of hands this morning of those for whom it was their first Asia Pacific convention. Hands up if that was you. How many of you, it's the first time you've been here? Look at that. So many hands. How wonderful. You know, the interesting thing is, those of you who just had your hands up, of all the people in the room, your perspective is probably the most important. The reason your perspective is so critical is because you're new. You don't know how things have always been done. You've got fresh eyes. You've got a different perspective, a different paradigm. The late Dr. Wayne Dyer put it best when he said this: when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And the beauty of people with fresh eyes is they see things differently. Therefore, they see ideas, opportunities, possibilities that all those who know the way it's always been done for years will often miss. In fact, I often suggest that people with fresh eyes, the beauty of them is they'll see the most simple solutions to problems the experts make really complicated. I love showing this with students' exam response as a case in point of seeing a simple solution to an otherwise complicated problem, because it's so true. Now, I reckon the best example of the power of fresh eyes in bringing about innovation actually comes from the global furniture giant IKEA. I don't know if you're aware of this, but back in the day, before IKEA was the sort of company it is today, IKEA used to sell ready-assembled furniture. So if you went into an IKEA store years ago and you went in to buy a table or a bookcase or a chair, it actually came as a chair or a table or a bookcase. Not as a flat pack thing with an Allen key and like, have fun with that, you know, here are the instructions, you'll sort of understand. Back in the day, they used to have ready-assembled furniture. And at one point, they were doing a catalogue photo shoot for a whole lot of new season stock items. And at the end of the catalogue photo shoot, all the IKEA warehouse staff were packing the stock back into a truck to go back to the warehouse. But there was one 8-seater dining table they couldn't fit back into the truck. Now they knew it should have fitted because all of that stock had come in this very truck. So they knew it had to go in there somehow, but they couldn't get it to fit. They couldn't get the doors closed. Now standing at a distance, packing away the camera gear, the tripods, the lights, was the photographer. And he noticed them wrestling with his table. And with the benefit of fresh eyes, someone who didn't deal with furniture every day of his life, with the benefit of a bit of objectivity, a bit of distance, he thought of something. Something that seemed absolutely perfectly obvious to him. And he walked over to the guys wrestling with his table and simply said, "Have you thought of taking the legs off?" Seemed obvious to him. Now the guys who were wrestling with the table, the IKEA staff, hadn't occurred to them because they'd done this so many times. They were so close to their role, their jobs. They're like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's give it a shot." They took the legs off, table went in, closed the doors, got back to headquarters, and they were joking about this experience. And one of the executives from IKEA overheard the joking and asked what had happened. And it got him thinking. In fact, if you trace it back, that one question from that one photographer that day became the seed of an idea that transformed IKEA to be the business we know today. That was the seed of the idea that became the flat pack or assemble it yourself at home business model. Now, having assembled my fair share of IKEA furniture over the year, I sometimes wonder how many relationship breakdowns that one photographer is responsible for the globe over, okay? Because yes, they're very fun putting IKEA furniture together, but that's the power of fresh eyes. And My question is, in your team, how do you respond to fresh hires? Because you know what often happens in business? Someone new starts. And we basically say, sit in the corner, watch how we do things around here, learn our scripts, learn the way that we've always done it. And then once you've figured out how we do it, then you can offer some suggestions. But by that point, they've got the same blinkers, the same perspective everyone else has. And there's a constant tension in this business. You want to train your people, you've got to make sure there's consistency in the way they run the business, but at the same time, you've got to allow space and time for people to come in and see the way you do things and go, why do you do it that way? And sometimes that process in itself is powerful, because I'll come in and look at the way you've always done things, and you'll say, well, I actually don't know why we do it that way. It's possible that it's become a rut. It's become a way of doing things that made sense 5 years ago but doesn't make sense anymore. Maybe it's time to change it. We've got to develop that innovation culture if we're going to stay at the cutting edge. The fifth and final key to maintaining and building momentum is simply this. You need to embrace the next generation. And what I love about this business, and I want to tell you, compared to a lot of other businesses I work with, you're doing this well. Certainly compared to where you were years ago. I think when I'm not sure which year it was that I came and spoke at the Asia Pacific Convention when it was in Sydney. And this was a theme that I talked about, the next generation, millennials, and this group called Generation Y. And so we talked a lot about how do you bridge the gap? How do you engage with this group? Because it's so critical that you do. I mean, how many of you here are from the Philippines? Hands up for the Philippines crew. Lots of you. I love to see, I've heard a number of times from a few of you today that Gen Y, I mean, that's the growth group in the Philippines right now. The vast bulk of your leaders are between 32 and 36. I mean, there's a lot of enthusiasm right now in the Philippines, and a lot of the growth is coming from this younger generation. And that is so exciting to me. In fact, probably one of the best conversations I've had was with an audience member in Melbourne this year at the convention down there. I won't single him out because he might be embarrassed if I did that, but he's a two-star diamond who said that he heard me speak at that Asia Pacific conference, took all of it on board. He was just new to the business, and he said this focus on how to engage younger generations had been the key to building the momentum he had in his business. And it's just, as a speaker, you often don't get the encouragement or the feedback because, you move on and then you don't necessarily connect with people years later and see the fruit of your efforts. It was just so encouraging to hear that. And I want to suggest this is a group who are such an opportunity for your business. They really are. By the way, Gen Y are the millennials, as they're sometimes called in the US. They're a generation now aged 17 through to 36. That's the age bracket of the millennials. So they're all grown up. And for those of you who haven't heard me speak about this whole theme before, my interest in the whole topic of generational change started back in 2004. Because that's the year we saw headlines like these ones flash across newspapers around the world. And see, the media were trying to tell us that Gen Y or the millennials were bad news. They were self-centered, they were lazy, they were materialistic, they were entitled. You hear so much negative stuff about Gen Y. And as a Gen Y person, I'm 35, so I'm on the border. But I'm a Gen Y just. I remember thinking, is this true? Are my peers and I really as bad as everyone's saying? And so I spent 3 and a bit years interviewing 80,000 young people around Australia and then beyond overseas. And the first book I wrote that I spoke about at the AP convention last time I was here was this book that came out at the end of that research called The New Rules of Engagement. And essentially this book was an attempt to capture those trends on paper. What's making Gen Y or the millennials tick? Why do they represent such a huge opportunity? Because they do. Massive opportunity, particularly for this industry. But more importantly, how do you bridge the gap? How do you build momentum with this group? And like I said, many businesses right now, this is the key challenge they're facing. In fact, one of the businesses that's really wrestling with Generation Y or the millennials and that's really impacting on their growth and their momentum is this business here. Twitter, I think, has got in a couple of days their next quarterly earnings report coming out. And I was reading in the Wall Street Journal this morning, they're nervous. They're nervous because every quarter for the last year and a half has been bad news. Their share price took a hammering last year because for Twitter right now, their wrestle is how to engage and attract young people. Because where are young people today? They're not on Twitter. This is where they are. They're on Pinterest. They're on Snapchat. They're on WhatsApp. They're on Kik. They're on Facebook Messenger. They're even on ones like Dub Smash, which is an app in the bottom right-hand corner. And the challenge for Twitter is how to get cool again. How to attract young people to their platform. And the good news is you guys are doing this well. But see, attracting Gen Y, attracting millennials to your business and driving growth that way is only part of the key to maintaining momentum. Because you can attract them, but if you don't keep them, you're going to be spinning your wheels. And that is one of the hardest things with Gen Y. We touched on this briefly this morning. The fact that they join and they're all excited, they're all intentional, they're really focused until the next bright flashy object comes along and they're off. And that can be a really difficult group to get to lock in and become consistent. And as we said this morning, consistency is critical if you're going to build momentum in this business. And so I guess the question is, how do you get to the point where you can get this younger generation who are often very reactive to lock in and be consistent over time? And one of the things I put together in preparation for today was a video for you guys with a specific focus on your business, looking at 5 keys to making daily routines, daily habits stick, particularly with millennials. How do you make this group go from having a good intention to a routine that actually becomes a part of their daily life? And if it will be useful, I was thinking the best way to get the video to you, because I didn't put it on YouTube, it's not a public video, it's just a specific clip for you guys. If you jump on our website, feel free to do it now if you want to grab your phone or a tablet device out. If you go to my website, which is at the top there, MichaelMacQueen.net, if you go to the homepage, there's a little blue button there that says conference code with a question mark. And if you click on that, just put in your first name, your email address, and that's the code you need to put in, USANAAP. Make sure you do this by 9 p.m. tonight. That's when we'll close it up. And then I'll send the video out probably at some point tomorrow. And it's just a short video, I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes, and you're welcome to share that with your downline teams. And it's all about how to make good intentions become routines that last, because that's the goal. As we said before, earlier this morning, we talked about the fact that John Maxwell said, you won't change your life until you change something you do every single day. And that is particularly a challenge with millennials. And so I'll send that video to you if that would be helpful. Look, we're almost out of time. Just as we draw all this together though, I will put my details back up on the screen. Feel free to connect on social media or whatever platforms you use. So if that would be useful, the website's up there with a whole lot of other information that might be helpful too. But, just as we draw all this together, I said this morning that for many of us, high school science was when we started learning about momentum, but I was reminded reading Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect, recently, that for most of us, our first lesson in momentum actually went right back to when we were fairly young kids, in playgrounds, playing on these things here. Remember good old-fashioned merry-go-rounds? Before they were deemed far too dangerous for children, they all got ripped out of playgrounds around the world. Actually, I was at a kids' party on Monday, and actually have one of these in the playground. I thought, how wonderful, they still exist out there. The good old-fashioned merry-go-rounds. Who remembers these things from when you were a kid? Any of you do? Remember, of course, you get your friends and you grab onto the horizontal bars and you get into the position, you count 1, 2, 3, and then you push with all your might. And the hardest bit was to get it off go, just to budge it from stationary just to moving a tiny bit. And of course, as it started to speed up, you'd speed up with it. And you'd heave and you'd push as hard as you could, and you'd run alongside it. Then that magical moment where you had enough speed up and you almost couldn't hold on anymore, you'd jump up onto the deck, you'd hold on with one hand, and the blood rushed into your face, the wind through your hair, squealing with delight, because that was momentum. It was exciting, it was exhilarating. And the great thing was, of course, when it started to slow down, all it took was a couple of quick pushes and you're back up to speed again. And as we said before, that's Newton's first law of motion. It's the hardest thing is to get off go. Once you're moving, it's easier to stay at pace. But that is the key challenge, to get off go. Mark Twain put it best when he said this: the secret to getting ahead is simply to get started. Ain't that true? Just getting started. And often that is the hardest part, but it's so critical. As we said this morning, it's never too late to start, it's always too late to wait. And I love this old Chinese proverb, such wisdom in this Chinese proverb that said, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Today is the day, this is the moment. And I want to leave you with a great quote I came across on Facebook recently by the UK author Karen Lamb, who said this: a year from now, you'll wish you started today. Today's the day. Who's up for it? All the best. Thank you for having me. Have a great rest of convention. Thank you, USANA.
All right, we're going to take a 15 minutes break and we will restart our third session at 3 o'clock. Thank you.